Life happens fast. And in an instant, disaster could strike. When the choices you make mean the difference between life and death, what would you do? Put yourself to the test and see if you have what it takes to stay alive. Would you do or die? Shipwrecked on a desert island. Going down on a sinking ship. Caught in the eye of the perfect storm. You could worry about these extreme scenarios when planning a trip on the open seas. But according to the U.S. Coast Guard, the #1 danger to watch out for on the water is other boats. A massive 120-foot yacht plows into a smaller craft like a hatchet splitting wood. But how could this happen? On the open sea, the rule is that both boats should turn starboard to avoid a head-on collision. But there's an even more important rule. Never assume the other guy knows the rules. Now, step on the deck of the smaller boat. It's just seconds before impact. Your moment to do or die. What would you do? A. Grab the railing to muscle through the impact. B. Hit the deck and stay low. Or C. Leap for your life onto the bigger boat. Here's what you should consider. You're on a boat, on a collision course with a 120-foot yacht, and just seconds away from impact. That's bad news for you, because as the smaller of the two ships, you'll take the brunt of the hit. As the ships collide, the boat's momentum will be stopped cold. But your body will be launched forward. It's like being in a car accident without a seatbelt. But it's not just the jolt you need to worry about. It's getting crushed by the oncoming boat. The bow coming at you is nearly 18 feet tall. The exact same height as where you're sitting. After a day on the water, you might feel refreshed and ready for anything. For your sake, you better be. All hands on deck. It's time to make your choice. A. B. Or C. So what would you do? If you're worried about getting rocked by the impact, you could try to make like a barnacle and cling for your life. But the fact is, you've been growing weaker from the moment you stepped on the boat. It's a phenomenon known as boater's hypnosis. And research has shown that as little as 4 hours of exposure to the sun, wind, and rocking waves can leave your body fatigued. You might not even realize how weak you are until the moment of impact. And that's the exact wrong time to find out if you can hold on. If you think it's wise to risk it, you've gone off the rails. So if hanging on for dear life is a wash, maybe you think you should try jumping onto the other boat just before impact. You might even think it's just crazy enough to work. It's not. Science aside, the idea of running toward the impact zone is flawed from the start. With the boat moving up and down and the deck under your feet about to come to a sudden stop, you're more likely to take a tumble than complete a jump even a pro stuntman would think twice about trying. While theoretically possible, your timing would need to be perfect down to the millisecond. And guess what? It won't be. Because that same boater's hypnosis that's been draining your strength also slows your reaction time to almost as much as if you were drunk. Take this leap of faith, and you may be jumping to your death. So what should you do? If you're about to be steamrolled by a much bigger boat, hit the deck and stay low. This will lower your center of gravity and help you from being thrown overboard, which, believe it or not, could be a bigger danger than the impact itself. Drowning after going overboard accounts for 71% of all boating accident fatalities. Whether you end up lying prone or even just crouched down, maintain at least 3 points of contact with the boat at all times. Like a lineman, this stance will greatly increase your stability as the force rockets through your body. Luckily, most of the people on this boat were already seated low and close to the deck. If you want to live to see your ship come in, hit the deck before the deck hits you. So floating above the waves nearly got you killed. Maybe you'll have more luck down below. Then again, maybe not. This diver is about to find that out the hard way. The northern elephant seal. Growing up to 5 times as heavy as a grizzly bear, this is one animal that's hard to miss. Take it from Seth Schulberg. He's diving in the Sea of Cortez when a massive bull elephant seal approaches. Seth greets the animal. Big mistake. The bull turns on him. The giant seal wraps its 30 meat-shredding teeth around Seth, again and again. If Seth doesn't stop this brutal attack soon, the next bite may be his last. Now, put yourself in his place. This is your moment to do or die. Would you know how to escape this underwater attack? What would you do? A. Swat at the elephant seal's powerful proboscis. B. bang on your tank to scare the seal away. Or C, dive deep below the danger and wait it out. Here's what you should consider. You're out of your element, being bitten repeatedly by an animal that's bigger than some heavy-duty trucks. You've got a full tank of air, enough to stay underwater for 45 minutes, if you use it right. But you're facing an impressive titan. The seal's prominent nose can grow up to 20 inches long, and it uses the sensitive organ to attract potential mates. It also intimidates other bulls by inflating its powerful proboscis to make deep, threatening sounds, called clap threats. All of this adds up to one formidable opponent. You've only got a few seconds to decide how to take him on. Make your choice. A, B, or C. So what would you do? If you think you can scare the seal into retreating, you might try to emulate a bull seal's clap threat by banging on your oxygen tank. During mating season, bulls will viciously fight for breeding grounds, both physically and vocally. Their loud clap threats can keep rivals at bay. But if a trespasser makes the noise, the dominant male just might take it as a call to arms. And right now, you're the trespasser. So while you might think you're scaring the seal away, you're really saying, bring it on. Bang on your tank, and the response could be loud and clear. So if bringing the noise is a good way to get permanently silenced, maybe the thing to do is make a quiet escape by diving deeper and waiting it out. But do you really think you can outdive an elephant seal? In their quest for food, elephant seals have been recorded diving an astounding 5,000 feet deep, the equivalent of 4 Empire State Buildings stacked end to end. At that depth, the pressure can be as great as 1 ton per square inch, strong enough to crush a military submarine like a tin can. But even if you think you can wait it out in the shallows, you're wrong. You have at best 45 minutes of air in your tank. Elephant seals can hold their breath for up to 2 hours, as long as most Hollywood horror movies. So even if the seal never decides to bite again, you could die just waiting it out. Try to dive deep, and you may never resurface. So what should you do? If you want to end an elephant seal's attack, it's time to stick your business in its nose. During crucial mating months, when the seal can't leave the beach to feed, the proboscis actually reabsorbs moisture from the animal's exhalations. This makes the nose more sensitive than the rest of the body. And it also means the seal can't afford to have this life-sustaining organ damaged by a hit from you. In Seth's case, He got lucky. The elephant seal was probably just warning him to stay back. But if you want to come out on top in this fight, the best thing to do is aim for the nose and swing for the fences. That's what you do if you don't want to die. From marauding elephant seals to bone-rattling collisions, you haven't had much luck on the water. So maybe it's time to try your hand on land. Slide behind the wheel of an SUV and head for the California desert. But brace yourself. You could be in for a wild ride. Off-roading. It's a rough and tumble adventure. And with 500 miles of dirt roads, Anza Borrego Desert State Park is an off-roading paradise. The park's most hazardous drop-off is a treacherous 60-degree slope aptly called Heart Attack Hill. And one thrill seeker is about to take the plunge. With a spotter on hand to guide her, the driver begins her descent without her seatbelt. And then it happens. Could you survive this bone-crushing crash?
Oh my God.
Get ready, because we're taking you back to the tipping point. If your vehicle was on the verge of rolling, what would you do? A, jump out of the Jeep before it begins to roll. B, brace your feet against the floorboards and lean towards the passenger seat. Or C, grip the wheel and steer away from the roll. Here's what you should consider. You're in a 4x4 Jeep. You're not wearing a seatbelt. And you're about to tumble down a steep hill. Only 2% of crashes are rollovers, but they account for 35% of all fatalities. More than 280,000 are reported each year, claiming over 10,000 lives. And you're in danger of becoming one of them. Being in a vehicle during a rollover is like being thrown into a 2-ton dryer on high. Drivers can be subjected to more than 8 Gs in a rollover. That's more than military fighter pilots experience in flight, and more than enough to cause serious injuries. You only have a split second to decide. Think fast and make your choice. A, B, or C. So what would you do? With only seconds to act, you might decide to jump from the driver's seat before the Jeep begins to roll. But trying to leap from an out-of-control vehicle is one of the most dangerous things you can do. As your ride starts to roll, you could be violently ejected, and about half of all rollover fatalities result from being thrown out of the car. Most rollovers happen at about 50 miles per hour. But even in a slow roll, without knowing exactly which way the vehicle will fall, you could end up underneath your car. With 4,000 pounds of metal looming above you, jumping from the driver's seat is a deathly roll of the dice. So it looks like you're going down. The question is, how best to survive it? Desperate for control, you might try to grip the wheel and steer towards safety. In rollovers, tires collide with rocks and other objects. The impact of each hit transfers force through the steering wheel. And if you're tensed up and gripping it tightly, the jerking wheel could snap your arm bones like twigs. As for trying to steer out of this roll, once you tip, inertia takes over. And the only direction you'll be able to go is down. So what should you do? If you want to survive a rollover in a Jeep, you should brace your feet against the floorboards and lean toward the passenger seat. Keeping your feet braced against the floor will help anchor you, and leaning toward the passenger seat will move you out from under the collapsing roof, minimizing your chance of severe head and spinal injuries. Walking away from a crash like this is rare, and even though this driver's Jeep only rolled a few times, she still suffered a broken back. Safety experts recommend you always wear a seatbelt. But even if you find yourself without it, if you want to survive a deadly rollover, brace yourself and lean towards the passenger seat. That's what you do if you don't want to die.